Greetings and welcome. I'm glad to have you here. Before we begin, let me take a few moments to give the obligatory like this video, comment on this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and more importantly, share this video. Let's try and get this channel to 1,000 subscribers. And while you're at it, be sure to check out my Patreon channel. Consider becoming a subscriber and help keep my editor Graygor energized with pizza and beer. Seriously, editors help make the magic in this business, so please, let's give them some love. The links are in the video description at the top of the page on both YouTube and Rumble. And lastly, a quick shout out to my Tier 3 and 4 patrons. Russ of the Frozen North, New5AC, Nick, Zachary Langmead, ScaredWolf1206, and Zachery Raney. Thank you very much. And now, on with the story. The Deathworlders, a story by Philip R. Johnson, a.k.a. Hambone, Hambone HFY, and Hambone 3110. Chapter 26, Blood and Ash. Part 3. Owen Powell.
He's fucking crazy.
Walsh's voice rang with agreement, but also with resolve. No better option, Stainless. I just wanted on the record that it was his idea and he volunteered.
Noted and recorded,
Powell agreed. He looked to the loadmaster, who gave him a thumbs up from behind his oxygen mask and waved towards the rear ramp.
We're ready to jump on your go, drinking buddy. You have a 3-minute window.
Copy. Happy trails. The ramp was lowered. Warhorse and Baseball were already stalking towards the end of it, running a last-minute check that their gear and weapons were locked down for the jump. He slapped them both on the helmet to get their attention.
There's one wounded on the ground,
he shouted, to be heard over the sudden rush of Arctic air.
He and Ash are near Point Charlie. Audis, you're to secure them for evac. Firth will rendezvous with you and recover his energy reserves. That one's going to take it out of him. Burgess, you and I are going to link up with Murray at Point Foxtrot and eradicate the biodrones. All of them. Any questions?
No, sir.
Right. Positions.
He turned to the loadmaster, who held up his hand in a waiting gesture. With luck, the wait was almost over. Timothy Walsh. A pulse cannon shot flattened a single-story dwelling, and the last of the gunfire from that end of the road went silent. There was still movement visible up there, but it was plainly just a hierarchy drones picking through the wreckage looking for any unlikely survivors they could finish off. The real clue that their work was done was that the UFO darted east and its pulse cannons speared down to flatten a building somewhere near Point Charlie. Coombs immediately got on the line.
That was close.
Go time. Firth had already called that he was in position.
Mama 2-4, drinking buddy. Fox 2, on my position. 9-line follows.
He provided the necessary information, which Mamba read back. Good copy, Mamba. Now, please.
Fox 2 away. Danger close. Now I gotta maneuver for a bit.
By mutual understanding, Mamba 2-4 would be unavailable for the moment. His wingman was ready, further off and at a different angle of attack, providing active and visual steering to the missile while it was without lock. By splitting the labor, Mamba 2-4 would be able to maneuver and escape detection or possible retaliation, while Mamba 2-6 ensured the attack would be successful.
Lightweight, thunder run now.
From his vantage point, Walsh got a clear view as Firth burst out from an alleyway and sprayed the biodrones with a burst from his M4 to get their attention. The instant he had it, his tactics changed. He became a wild, unpredictable blur. Rather than simply sprinting away from the return fire, as Walsh might have been inclined to do, Firth described a random line that always kept him out of the line of fire, but still created the tantalizing suggestion that he was in the open. Walsh knew from his preliminary briefings early in the SOR pipeline that without EV mass, what Firth was doing was dangerous as hell. The extra mass of the suit not only provided, mass with which to maneuver and exert force, but also provided active cooling and energy reserves. Firth was burning a lot of energy and fast, meaning that his plan had to work or he would suddenly run out, overheat, and become a sitting duck. It worked. The UFO promptly abandoned its systematic destruction of the village near where Coombs and Ava were hiding. It gained altitude and spun towards the rest of the village. Walsh counted under his breath. 5 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. The UFO fired. Firth was somehow on the opposite side of the road from its aim point, and the blast smashed harmlessly into the ground. 3 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. The second shot was more accurate. If Firth hadn't completely unexpectedly reversed course to run under the UFO, it would have smeared him along the road. Walsh heard the alien craft power forward and down the street to try and get an angle of fire on this infuriating tricky target, and for an instant the night went away. The invisible alien ship was connected to the horizon by an eye-searing line of angry light and a thunder-like being smacked in the head by Mjolnir itself, which shook up dust and pebbles across the whole mining complex. The impact collapsed the spacecraft's cloaking field and revealed that fully a third of it was gone, ripped off outright. What was left of it wobbled alarmingly, lurched sideways, fired one last desperate parting shot at Firth that instead scalped a building, before tipping the other way to nose into the side of the much-abused rock crusher. The rock crusher weathered the impact. The UFO didn't. Walsh raised a shaking hand to his communicator. "Stainless," he managed after clearing his throat. "Drinking, buddy. Big Hotel CAS has been splashed. You're clear to jump." He exhaled his relief, then raised Mama 2-4 instead. "Mama 2-4, drinking, buddy. Good kill." "Copy. We remain at your disposal. Orbit?" Walsh described a holding pattern outside of the LZ. "Ongoing drop. LZ is hot. Please don't scare off our cavalry." "Wouldn't dream of it. Oh, tell the Klingons, or whatever the fuck it was I just splashed, that I said hi." "Hey, word of advice? Don't look forward to your debrief on landing." Walsh granted himself a smile. It was always nice to take the pilots down a notch. Like all good pilots, Mama 2-4 bore it with grace. "Copy. We await your pleasure, good sir." The biodrones down on the street were still reeling from the detonation overhead. Gunfire in one of the few windows they hadn't flattened had to be Murray, taking advantage of their confusion, and Walsh weighed in, exploiting his oblique angle and scope scar to really turn the screw on them. His first round was a clean headshot. Fuck yeah. John Burgess. "Halo with no shoot, huh? We should call this thing a hell no." The good news about the UFO being splashed roused Horst from whatever dark trance he'd been in. Now he was raring to throw himself into the fight, and John knew his buddy well enough to know that the trademark Adam Ari's grin was back, even if it was hidden behind the breathing mask. "Dude, what does that acronym even stand for?" he asked. "Fuck if I know," John told him. "We'll decide it later." There was a slap on the helmet from the loadmaster. "Ready." The light went green. They sprinted off the end of the ramp. 6. Scorn.
"So, who are you really? 7?
Hatred.
Traitor?
Anger.
Coward?"
That last stab brought a grim chuckle unbidden up from Six's host Biodrone's deepest reflexes. He just couldn't resist the urge to comment quietly to himself. 5-on-1, and they called me the coward. For all that he would comfortably survive the destruction of his host, the physical battle still held real danger for Six. If his host was killed, he would be forced to abandon it, and all of the available communication channels were monitored. Dangerous. Six knew that he had more experience than any other in the kind of mind-slicing involvement in combat between digital sapients, but only a foolhardy idiot would pick a fight against a numerically superior force. He knew who his assailants were. 13, 27, and 44 were hierarchy. 30 and 62 were both Cabal, obeying the standing Cabal orders to protect their own identities at all cost. Cabal members, unlike their larger hierarchy, trusted one another to protect their secrets. They had to. If they couldn't, the movement would have already been exposed. They were nearly strong enough to become exposed and start warring for the soul of the Agrarian species anyways, but 3-on-3 would be a much more even fight, one where his experiences might well carry the day, but why fight at all when there were less risky alternatives?
Serene. "I see the future,"
he sent. Their emotions were running high enough that prodding and goading them with hints and doublespeak would keep them irrational and force mistake. There was a lengthy delay. Gunfire somewhere nearby and the dense tangle of cheap housing gave him a clue as to the cause. That was solid support for his reasoning. If nothing else, despite being outnumbered, something like 6-1, the humans had inflicted a heavy toll on the hierarchy biodrones even before Six's own forces had been ordered into the fight. The abductor really had been the only effective weapon against them, and now that was gone, a fact that would harm his own plans for Earth as well as the hierarchy's operations. Despite being depleted by half, the human team were now clearly giving the drones a war.
Mounting anger. "Hide behind cryptic nonsense all you like. You will be captured, you will be compiled, and you will be deleted.
Six shook his head. Patient prediction. If you have your way, our species will fall. We have already lost. He glanced left and right down the gap between buildings and scurried to a doorway. There was no such thing as a locked door now that all the miners and their families had been biodroned. He ducked inside, then cursed. Somewhere in the confusing tangle of the unfolding battle, he'd gotten turned around and was now pinned against one of the village's main roads, where there was no cover and nowhere to hide. Elaboration. The humans have already escaped us. No matter what we do, we cannot defeat them now. Vigorous disagreement.
We need only one jump beacon to bring the discarded down on them.
Six scoffed and checked outside again. He couldn't go back the way he'd come. They were way too close behind him. His only option was to slip through the window and make a break across the road to safety. Hopefully, he could double back around them. It was not, on balance, a good plan, but it was the best he had. He didn't get a chance to execute it. He was preparing to climb through when the door behind him burst open. The biodrone that stepped through smiled, betraying that it was the host for an agent, and opened fire. Six hauled himself through the window. He didn't, at first, feel the bullet wound. There was a sense of an impact and a sort of coldness in his face. It was only once he realized that the bullet had scored across his cheek, slicing it open and ripping off part of his ear, that the pain hit. He turned it off. It was no longer a necessary datum. Instead, he got up and ran, thinking desperately. Frantic. Have you not been paying attention? Do you really think that we will be able to secure such a thing, now that our source of biodrones has been destroyed, and the nuclear weapons it carried will be recovered? He sent. After all, trying to talk them round was no worse a plan than any other he had right now. Dismissive.
They are less than children.
So much for reason.
Resolve. They are tenacious, they are intelligent, and they are motivated to survive above all else. We have failed.
He broadcast, turning towards a gap between the buildings. He nearly ran into a wall of 4 guns. Enough! You're trapped! The one who'd shot him came up behind Six to his right, and another emerged from further down the street. Trapped was almost an understatement. I don't suppose we can talk about this, he ventured, appealing to the leader. The agent didn't reply. He simply aimed at him. Something landed on the agent's host. This was definitely an understatement. Whatever it was smashed into the biodrone from high above with enough force to crush, break, and burst it, and none of the agents, not the hierarchy, not the cabal, not Six, had time or wit to do anything but stare as a red-eyed thing went instantly from landing to violent motion. The drone to his left was killed with a backhand swat to the temple that crushed its skull. A large heavy gun snapped up and dispatched the 2 drones behind Six with 2 precise bursts. It didn't all go the rampaging sky monster's way. The second burst was interrupted by an anomalous metallic sound, but the creature didn't miss a beat. It lowered its head and bull-rushed the last 2 hosts with enough force to break one's spine outright. The final one barely had the chance to weakly scrabble at its assailant armor before the creature killed it through the simple expedient of twisting its head right off. No sooner was it dead than the monster lurched upright, drew a secondary weapon from its hip, and aimed it directly and with disconcerting stability at Six's chest. There was a long, horribly tense moment. The only sounds were gunfire at the far end of the town and a pattering sound, blood raining off his rescuers, or possibly captors' armor. Very, very carefully, Six extended the hand holding his gun out sideways, placed the weapon in the dirt, and stepped away from it. Target secured, the monster announced, presumably not speaking to him. Whatever it heard in response was met with a curt nod. You, kneel, cross your ankles and put your hands on top of your head. Six ignored the urgent signals from his host biodrone's ghost personality that the appropriate thing to do right now would be to excrete, vomit, and possibly pass out entirely, and instead carefully and slowly obeyed. Lie on your belly and keep your hands on your head. Six complied as the monster again moved with alarming speed. There was an incredible pain as one of its knees pressed hard into his, and an almost nauseatingly sharp agony as both his arms were yanked down to his lower back so forcefully Six could feel the tendons stretch. The knee moved up his hands and crushed so firmly that he could feel the bones in his hands spread apart, and something bound his wrists with excessive tightness, and he was roughly yanked to his feet.
Don't try to run.
No, Six agreed, utterly persuaded that it would be a futile effort. There was a thump, and one of Ash's guardians, the enormous one wearing the eye-gougingly ugly shirt, dropped off a rooftop to join them. He surveyed the carnage with no sign of any emotion beyond perhaps a professional approval.
Malfunction, Horse?
He asked, aiming his own gun at Six. Horse retrieved his primary weapon.
Landing busted the belt,
he said. The weapon hinged open and was reloaded and charged with practiced ease.
Got any juice? I'm running on fucking fumes here.
Horse took over guarding Six.
Concentrates in the top right side pocket. Water's on the left.
Ugly Shirt tugged a foil pack out of the indicated pocket, twisted the top off, and dipped its contents into his mouth, swallowing with a grimace. Horse nodded approvingly.
Hardcore, man. Tastes like getting face-fucked by a lime.
The juice was chased down by a large bottle of water.
Right, we've got a wounded man yonder. Ash did a pretty good job patching him up, I reckon, but you should probably have a look at him. You, that away.
He jerked his gun at Six.
Ash did?
Yeah-huh? There was a grudging tone from Ugly Shirt's voice. Walking with his hands tied behind him turned out to be more difficult than Six had anticipated. Without his arms swinging to counterbalance him, each step had to be compensated for with less elegant, larger shifts of weight. The result was that the powerful, graceful stride he'd been so proud of himself for cultivating had to sit back and watch as he stumbled along in front of his captors with short, clumsy steps. This was not, apparently, to Ugly Shirt's satisfaction. The third time that Six nearly tripped on the rough ground, he growled, grasped Six's shirt and neck from behind, and lifted. His grip was agonizingly tight, and something about the action caused Six's limbs to suddenly go limp. Try as he might, Six could scarcely will either his legs or his arms to action. Ugly, meanwhile, sped up to a quick jog, easy for him, that Six might have just about matched at a run with his hands free. He unceremoniously dropped Six in the dirt next to Ash and one of her guardians, who looked to be badly wounded. Even through the mask, there was some kind of connection between Ash and the faceless mountain of armored human who had saved Six's life. Both of them went very still on seeing one another.
Ash?
Warhorse? Then slowly her gaze ran down him and took in the fact that he was coated in a mix of bodily fluids, mostly blood, but several others besides, none of which had ever been intended to be exposed to the air. Six could hardly blame her for being shaken by the gruesome barbarity of him. For his part, Warhorse was inscrutable.
If you two are done with the happy fucking reunion, the wounded man croaked, I could really do with less pain right now.
Warhorse put his gun down, knelt by his injured colleague, and efficiently plucked a packet of some kind out from the many pouches about his person. Despite that the rest of him was covered in gore, his gloves were eerily clean. Six could only guess at what kind of hydrophobic antimicrobial technology had gone into creating a nimble, flexible pressure glove that could remain permanently sterile even at the most demanding Deathworld battlefield conditions. He tore the packet open and popped a little white stick into the wounded man's mouth. With swift, businesslike efficiency, he checked on the wounds.
You dress this?
He asked Ash. Bouncer talked me through it, though, she nodded.
You did good.
Despite this apparent praise, he took several additional steps, none of which Six had the education to recognize, and all of which seemed to involve alarmingly large needles. By the end of his ministrations, Bouncer had a few tubes in him, but he didn't seem to mind.
Go tell ya,
he managed to run the stick in his mouth, which Warhorse removed from him.
These new anesthetics do the job, but it just don't seem right not being high as balls right now. Suck it up,
Warhorse told him, not without an air of kindly humor. With the attention off him for a second, Six turned his mind to thoughts of escape. Connecting. Subnet mask. Unknown. Port unknown. System notification. Welcome to the Cabal. Unknown. Hierarchy operations on Earth are now completely neutralized. The abductor has been destroyed. The last biodrones are being eradicated. I have been captured. Unknown. Is this channel secure? Unknown. As secure as I could manage. I need facility for an immediate uplink off this planet. Quickly, before they drug me and detain me for questioning again. Unknown. That will tip our hand. Unknown. The time has come. Unknown. You are certain? Unknown. Completely certain. The humans have the coordinates for relay Ishrux 10010. The hierarchy will not believe that the station could have been discovered by chance. As soon as the first Deathworlder mission probes that facility, they will conduct a thorough audit. We must strike now and take advantage of their confusion. Unknown. I had hoped to recruit 94. Unknown. We have no time. If 94 defects later, unknown. Vote. System notification. Vote now. System notification. All votes have been cast. The ayes have it. Unknown. The first order of business is getting you off that planet. A secure link can be opened in 40 seconds. Unknown. The link must be large enough to accommodate 2 mind states. Unknown. 2? Unknown. I will explain later. Unknown. Very well. 3 minutes. Unknown. Thank you. Unknown. You will still self-format if you are captured in the interim? Unknown. Trust me. Unknown. You are right. I apologize. Good luck. System notification. Session terminated.
Hey, Earth to detainee. Come in, Starbase 6.
There was a hand waving in front of his face. 6 did a convincing job of blinking as if he'd been miles away. Sorry, I was distracted.
Not thinking of escaping, were ya?
Ugly Shirt managed the interesting trick of threatening with a light tone. As a matter of fact, I was, 6 replied. Of course, if I could, I already would have, so... This seemed to amuse, but not in a happy way.
Horse, you got any tranquilizer? I don't trust this asshole. Dude, I need that for if somebody gets his leg blown off. I'm not wasting that on this piece of shit.
Am I to be detained for questioning, then? 6 asked.
You know the drill.
Indeed I do, and I would sit down in that chair opposite my interviewer and tell them everything straight away this time. It would save us all a lot of time and inconvenience.
Smart of you, Bouncer agreed.
There's not much to tell, 6 shrugged. With that abductor destroyed, the hierarchy's plans for Earth are completely ruined. This battle will have depleted them below operational levels. There are now too few biodrones left on Earth to accomplish anything. Their only means of making more is in flames over there, and the stolen weapons on board were their only bargaining chip with enough value to potentially procure a jump beacon. Without a jump beacon in hierarchy hands, this system is completely safe.
We'll let the spooks decide if you're telling the truth on that one,
Ugly Shirt grunted. As you wish. Incidentally, there's a radio and electronics store in Abu Dhabi, a district called Musafa. The owners are hierarchy drones. You should find some interesting intelligence there. Warhorse turned to face him, sliding a hand into his bag.
Why tell us this now? He asked cautiously.
The secure link opened. 6 gave him his best and most infuriating smile. Goodbye, gentlemen. Warhorse lurched forward with a dose of tranquilizer ready to administer, but it was too late. 6 was laughing even as he slipped out of the body that had been his home for months and left Earth hopefully for good. He let his host live. Timothy Walsh. Murray and Firth had been terrifying enough all by themselves. Murray in particular was an unpredictable and fickle force of nature. He would appear, kill, and disappear only to reappear when and where he was least expected, and in the place the enemy would least want him to be. When Firth's dwindling energy reserves had forced him out of the fight, the double act between Murray's hit-and-fade marauding and Walsh's marksmanship had kept the biodrones pinned and immobile, but little more than that. The fight had bogged down, and Walsh was starting to worry about his supply of ammo when the 3 men in EV mass landed. He didn't see what happened over by Charlie, but he had a clear view of Foxtrot and the violence that was unleashed there. Baseball hit the ground like an airstrike and with about the same body count. Just when the drones had repositioned for cover and could fire at him, up popped Murray to shoot them sideways in the ass. If they found a spot where they were covered against both, then either Stainless or Walsh had a clean shot. It was dispassionate, efficient, They were merely servicing their targets, like any soldier or special operator would on any mission. The difference was how good they were at it. Walsh felt almost superfluous to the proceedings. His sniper's viewpoint was undoubtedly well appreciated, but what was the point? Nothing the biodrones had could penetrate that incredible armor. None were quick enough to avoid Murray's preternatural ability to catch them in enfilade, and when the last few tried to make a bid for escape, they did so straight into Stainless, who'd seen their move coming long before it began. Stainless was the most clinical of the lot, Walsh noted. The ones that fled away from him and into baseball met a messier end. Unavoidable and mercifully quick, but messy. Murray took the last kill. He stepped out of an alleyway in front of the last fleeing drone, drove a knife into its throat, then yanked it out the side. It looked brutal, but the drone was probably unconscious from the sudden drop in blood pressure before it had a chance to notice. For the first time in several long minutes, there was relative silence. The three vanished into what few of the nearby buildings remained intact enough to sweep. It seemed to last a long while before the call Walsh had been hoping for came in.
"Drinking, buddy? Get us an airlift."
Gladly, Walsh agreed. They had a V-22 on standby for exactly this reason. "Scimitar 1-9 drinking, buddy. We're ready for pickup. Be advised this mission is now case evac. 9-line follows." Ava Rios. An explosive cracking noise sent everybody in the alleyway who wasn't unconscious diving for cover. Ava hit the dirt and threw her hands over the back of her head. When she looked up, Adam was looking around from where he'd been shielding Combs, and Firth was checking that his dive over Six's sedated former host had done the poor man no harm.
"The hell was that?"
he grumbled, scooted to the end of the side street, then pulled his head back in as a second louder crack snapped out, followed by a creaking groan of strained wood. Adam checked that Combs's IV feed hadn't been dislodged.
"Problem?" "Shoddy-ass local construction's about to come down. We're probably clear of it." "Probably?" "Dude, I ain't a defender. Construction is rebar's thing, and demolition is snapshots, but it's..."
There was another cracked groan, and this time a third noise, the unmistakable shriek of a terrified child. Firth and Adam shared a moment's horrified mutual glance before Coombs slapped Adam on the arm.
"I'll be fine," he croaked. "Go."
The two of them were barely round the corner before Ava heard the tortured building at least partially give up the ghost. Adam stood and put a despairing hand on the top of his helmet, watching it come down. Ava cringed, but to her relief, the cries weren't suddenly silenced. In fact, they got louder. Adam and Firth scrumbled over the sagging home. She poked her head round the corner to watch them. Adam had turned on the light on his helmet and was peering through the gap between a slab of fallen concrete and a thick wooden beam with Firth squatted next to him.
"What's going on?" Coombs asked.
Horse is trying to lift." It felt so weird using Adam's call sign. "The building's half fallen down and they're trying to get the debris out of the way, but it looks like it's too heavy for him."
"Too heavy for those guys?" Coombs coughed. "Shit."
"They can move it, but neither of them are going to fit. Oh, God." Adam and Firth shied back from the collapsing building as another corner of it fell apart.
"They're calling for baseball," Coombs told her. "Stainless says he can't be spared from the sweep and clear."
"I'm going to help," Ava decided.
"Ash, you can't."
"I'm going to try," she asserted. "You'll be okay without me." He sighed.
"Go."
Adam turned and she ran up to him.
"Ava, get the hell back in there."
She ignored him and stooped to look into the collapsed building. There was a small child, a toddler really, hiding under a table that was already holding up far more than looked safe. "Can you lift that beam?" she asked. "I can wriggle in there." They both answered at once.
"No!"
"But..."
"Absolutely not," Adam insisted. "We're here to keep you safe."
"Fine. That thing's going to come down and kill that child. On your head be it," she snapped. The building groaned again, and the child whimpered. She pressed the USB drive Six had given her into Adam's hand. "I know Walsh recorded my chat with Six. I've got nothing more to do here," she told him. "Let me help." There was a snapping sound from somewhere inside the settling structure, and Adam's resolve snapped with it.
"The old man's gonna kill me," he muttered, and grabbed the beam. Dude, come on, help me.
Firth hesitated, then obeyed. Between the two of them, they were able to partially lift the blockage. Ava shed the armor that Vinther had given her and dropped onto her belly and wriggled into the hole they'd created for her. "Come on, Behnke, it's okay. Come here," she told the child, who had irrationally shied away from her. There was a horrible groaning sound from the table, and Adam snarled urgently through gritted teeth. Even for him, the load must have been a terrible effort.
Ava!
"Please come here," she begged the child, who finally got its wits together and darted forward into its arms. "Pull us out," she called. Firth grabbed her by a boot and heaved, sliding her and the child painfully in the dirt. A second later, she was picked up and completely carried away from the building as Adam gave the beam a final shove and backpedaled. Tons of concrete and wood came sliding down, filling the air with dust and the sound of demolition. They were bundled back into Coombs's company, who gave a relieved sigh at seeing them all safe. The child, a little girl, Ava guessed, though it was hard to tell between the neglect and the dust, had clamped onto Ava and was hugging hard. She squirmed in protest as Firth pressed an implant scanner on her head, which pinked a happy green.
"Guess kids can't be droned,"
Firth panted, and wiped some of the concrete dust off his sweating brow.
"That was too close."
"Sorry if I got into trouble with Stainless," Ava apologized.
"The Major?"
Adam asked, checking the child for injuries.
"You said the old man's going to kill you."
Adam shook his head with an exhausted laugh.
"I was talking about Dad."
"He doesn't need to know."
"Better if he doesn't,"
Adam nodded.
"You're probably right."
Two jets ripped the sky low overhead. Firth glanced up at them.
"Those guys are going to have a fun debrief," he commented.
"Why the low flyover?"
"Show of force. Let Big Hotel know they're beaten, if there's any left. Should force them to keep their heads down while we take care of this shit."
"So, what happens now?"
Ava asked.
"Now we wait for the all clear from Stainless. After that, you and Bouncer here going back on the Osprey with Horse, and the rest of us get to enjoy the luxuries of a bed-down pallet here on site for a couple of days."
"Speaking of which," Adam turned his head, raising a hand for quiet. It wasn't hard to hear the sound of approaching turboprops once he'd pointed them out. A second later, he nodded, tilting his head in a way that suggested he was listening to something Ava couldn't hear.
"Copy drinking, buddy. On our way."
He took a firm but gentle hold of Coombs and hoisted him easily up onto his shoulders.
"Come on, our ride's here."
"What about the kid?"
Firth gently took the little one off her. She didn't protest. Ava could only guess that she'd been so starved for human affection that anybody willing to even hold her was a blessing at this point.
"I've got him."
Ava got to her feet.
"See you around, I guess, big guy,"
she told Firth. All she got in reply was a grunt. A little crestfallen, she followed Adam.
"Hey, Ava."
She turned back. Firth gave her a long, calculating, and unreadable stare as he bounced the child on one massive knee.
"Take care,"
he decided eventually.
"You too."
He had to jog to keep up with Adam's stride, and they reached the open area just as the Osprey touched down. Adam held her back with one hand while he checked the coast was clear, then waved her forward, and together they dashed over the ramp. Adam set Coombs down on a litter against the port side, and Ava was ushered further up into the vehicle by the loadmaster, who got her settled and gave her a potted safety briefing. They were off the ground again almost as soon as they were on board. Adam got his patient settled, exchanged a few words with the loadmaster, then settled in the seat opposite Ava and, with a sigh, removed his helmet and mask. It dawned on her that he reeked. There was the familiar musk of his sweat. That she was intimately familiar with, and it didn't bother her at all. But his EV mass was dark brown from ankle to mid-chest, with what could only be mostly dried blood. He smelled unpleasantly like a jar full of old coins, and the grim bouquet was only enhanced by notes of gastric fluid, bile, and fecal matter. He caught her expression. "What?"
"You smell like a rotting pig in an open sewer on a hot day."
"Sick bags are under your seat."
"That's not the problem. You're covered in somebody, and you look like you don't even care."
He shrugged massively.
"That was a biodrone, not a somebody."
"They used to be a person."
"Used to be. Blame Big Hotel.
I didn't kill those poor bastards. I just finished what those assholes started. She nodded, then looked down at her boots. I guess I just don't like seeing you as a killer. He snorted and glanced at Coombs. The wounded man had fallen asleep, but nothing about that seemed to be cause for alarm. Yeah, well, that's what I am. It took a second for it to sink in that she'd probably stung him with that without meaning to. I'm sorry. I didn't mean... It's okay. I let you think. Nah, I can never just sit and think. My brain doesn't work that way, he sighed. There's just some things that you and I are never going to be able to talk about, okay? Okay, she agreed, and changed the topic. How are Dad and Jess? They're good. They miss you. I miss them too. What do they think of you and John being the Beef Brothers? He shrugged again, but this was his I don't know shrug rather than the dismissive shrug. Not had the chance to go back and see them since that whole thing started. Been too busy looking after the Gowans, and then this thing happened. Jess probably finds it hilarious. He chuckled and nodded, and an awkward silence fell. For several minutes, Ava just sat and listened to the engines, trying to ignore that she could taste his stink every time she inhaled. Her mind went into freewheel mode, alighting briefly on any subject that flitted across her attention before moving on. What are you thinking about? Adam asked her after a while. Too many things. I hear ya. The same uncomfortable silence came back, and this time it stuck. The strangest part about being woken up when they landed was that Ava had never noticed falling asleep. Date point: 10 years, 4 months, 1 week, 5 days AV. Omaha, Nebraska, USA, Earth. Kevin Jenkins. Jesus fuck. The job foreman chuckled. That's management talk for you've done good and there's going to be a bonus for you, isn't it? He asked. I don't stay on top of that trendy boardroom business jargon. Kevin chuckled. Nope, sorry. That was just ordinary surprise. Hey, not to question your professionalism, but you sure you didn't drop a 0 off all the measurements here? Nope. This is exactly according to the diagrams we were given. Kevin turned to the man beside him. Erickson, I've seen Spam cans bigger than this room. It's a small ship, Erickson shrugged. Trust me, people are just fine and smaller than this even, but we wanted to give them enough room to exercise. They're going to have 0 privacy. Erickson nodded, tapping on his tablet. Yep. No dignity. They'll have all the dignity they need, Erickson retorted. You're too used to having a large space for yourself, Jenks. It's a first-world luxury. Families of 8 live permanently in spaces smaller than this in some parts of the world. Yeah, and poverty. Trust us, we have a lot of psychological research behind this. For the right 3 people, living in this space won't be a hardship. It'll be paradise. And for the wrong people? Harrison tucked his tablet under his arm. The wrong 3 people won't be on that ship, he said. Date point: 10 years, 4 months, 1 week, 6 days AV. Ramstein Air Base, Landstuhl, Germany, Earth. Adam Oddies. It took 2.5 days before the situation was properly in hand, but those 2.5 days came with their own set of complications. There was political fallout with the Egyptian authorities, who objected in strong terms as more and more Allied assets deployed to their sovereign territory, and even more indignation when the whole force withdrew quite abruptly after 60 hours. Simon and Sean Harvey somehow got wind of it all and were a permanent feature at the perimeter cordon throughout, with Simon doing pieces to camera while Sean found every news site and feed that might want a badly informed opinion piece. Mercifully, they didn't stick their necks out and suggest SOR involvement, but the political fallout was becoming messy. For Adam, the first 6 hours or so involved handing over his patient to the military hospital, then the laborious process of removing the suit himself without his techs to help him. While the EV mask could, when plugged into an external power supply, refrigerate its own water and be removed by its operator if necessary, it was a difficult and laborious process that was no substitute for the efficient business as practiced by the SOR proper. As for the filthy outer suit, well, Ava was right. It was genuinely foul.
Doyle and Hargreaves might well end up destroying it and procuring a replacement. After that came debriefing, a long overdue shower, a recuperation meal to make up for all the lost energy he'd burned during the brief operation, some light PT, and he was finally able to find a corner to sleep in sometime around 4 a.m. local time. From there, it was a full day of more debriefings and performing the necessary suit maintenance as best he could without Hargreaves or Doyle. He unexpectedly encountered Ava in the mess on the morning of the second day, picking listlessly at a plate of hash browns and bacon under the watchful eye of an MP.
"They not shipped you home yet?" he asked, sitting down.
"I'm still waiting for Agent Darcy to get here," she replied.
She looked like she hadn't slept hardly at all since the Osprey flight.
"After I've spoken to her? I don't know. Back to London, I guess."
"You gonna eat those?"
She pushed the plate across the table for him and watched him eat.
"I don't think I'll ever get used to your appetite," she said, as he polished off the whole breakfast in a handful of efficient mouthfuls.
He set his knife and fork down.
"Get used to it?"
"It's just kind of difficult to connect the dorky guy I used to live with to Warhorse."
"Change happens," he observed, tucking his own overburdened plate over and starting on the foothills of Mount Breakfast. She didn't reply for a while, and he was well into his scrambled eggs when she did.
Hey. Thank you."
"For what?" he asked.
"You're here and sitting with me and talking with me. I kind of figured you'd want nothing to do with—"
"Your family," Adam interrupted her.
"I am?"
"Well, of course you fucking are," he told her. "We both call the same man Dad, don't we?"
Ava listened with a cagey, hopeful expression, so he sighed and explained.
"You remember what my mom was like? The whole thing with her and DCFS?" he said.
"Yeah?"
"My mom was an alcoholic bitch who made my life hell,"
Adam said, putting it bluntly.
"But I still loved her, 'cause she was my mom, and it still hurt when she died. But you can love your family even after they've hurt you."
"Even if they're not who you thought they were?"
she said.
"Right."
She watched him polish off his food.
"Hey, you did good on Empty Bell," he said once it was done. "I don't know what you talked about with Six there, but saving Coombs like that?"
"How is he, anyways?"
"Should be recovering by now, thanks to you. Lung injury like that, if you hadn't held it together and treated him, he'd have been dead in minutes."
She shook her head.
"He talked me through it."
"But you kept your head and listened and did it right," Adam told her. "I'm proud of you for that, and for going into that hole to save the kid. That was brave. I know you impressed Firth."
She accepted the praise awkwardly, twisting her fingers in front of her. He stacked their plates and stood up to clear them away.
"Just so we're clear," he said, "there's no going back. You and I are never going to be—"
"I know."
It was her turn to interrupt, holding up a hand.
"I know. Don't worry. I accept that. But you're the only family I have, Adam."
He nodded.
"Come back and have dinner sometime."
"I'll do that."
"Take care of yourself, and punch Sean in the dick for me."
She snort-laughed.
"With pleasure."
"Pleasure?"
"He keeps being—"
She trailed off, grimaced, and shook her head.
"Actually, never mind, but yeah, I want to punch him in the dick sometimes, and thanks."
He chuckled with her, nodded, and headed out.
"Nos vemos."
She smiled.
"You too."
They parted ways again, but this time Adam was left feeling buoyed by their conversation. Maybe things had turned a corner. Date point: 10 years, 4 months, 1 week, 6 days AV. Scotch Creek Extraterrestrial Research Facility, British Columbia, Canada. Earth. Colonel Ted Bartlett.
"Colonel, General Trumbull is here, sir."
Ted glanced up. The general was waiting patiently behind the cordon set up around the salvaged alien ship. Getting it back from Egypt had involved the simple expedient of using a jump field array to bring it, and the meter of desert bedrock beneath it, directly into one of Scurf's sealed hangars. Ted beckoned that he was fine to approach. "It's been made safe, sir," he explained as Tremblay stepped over the line and came closer. "How intact is it?" "Surprisingly so," Ted conceded. "Its internal force fields contained a lot of the damage. Not enough to keep it airborne, thank God, but, well, you can see. Where it's not completely destroyed, it's perfectly intact. You're certain that it's safe. The team in Egypt reported that it was biodroning people by removing their brains and injecting the implants directly into them, and that gun was still trying to shoot the salvage crew when they secured it. We've made it safe, Ted promised. Wasn't difficult, we just cut the power. Right. You know your business, Tremblay nodded. Sir, I'll take you double-checking me at every turn over a complete lobotomy any day, Ted chuckled. So, Tremblay looked around, we have a mostly intact hierarchy spaceship. Better than that, we have the nerve center for their whole Terran operation, Ted enthused. General, this thing was the linchpin. It was the relay station for their local communications. Without it, they're crippled. If there are any biodrones left after that battle, they're isolated on Earth and out of touch with the agents controlling them. Unless they have a second one, Tremblay observed. We'll know that soon enough, Ted promised. This thing's computer is right in the most reinforced part of the structure. It is perfectly undamaged. He paused to study a component that one of the scientists under him was carefully removing into a padded metal case, nodded, made a note on his tablet, and sent them on their way. If they don't have a second one, I think it's fair to say the battle for Earth is over. If only, Tremblay muttered, but we'll be much more secure at least. General, they didn't have a jump beacon in here, and if this was their only ship... Tremblay nodded and held up a hand. Unless you can pull a complete list of every biodrone they've ever made out of this thing, and until we've accounted for every single one, let's not go talking about battles or wars being won. I'm happy to call this one a big step forward, but even one biodrone could finish us if it gets its hands on a jump beacon. Then we'll prioritize data recovery, Bartlett nodded. And I'll get out of your way. Tremblay looked up as a C-17 came in low over the base on final approach. That'll be the SOR back from Germany. Time to give them bad news about the Caledonia, sir? Yes, but I want to be there when Major Jackson gives them that thing she dragged up here. Carry on, Colonel. Sir. Ted grimaced, resettled his glasses, and got to work on organizing the next phase. They had a lot of UFO to disassemble. Date point. 10 years, 4 months, 1 week, 6 days AV. Ramstein Air Base, Landstuhl, Germany, Earth. Darcy. This final chat with Ava was a much less formal affair than the ones that had come before. Ava was sitting on a couch in a small office that had been kindly loaned to Darcy for the occasion, still shadowed by her attendant MP, who gave Darcy a nod and stepped outside as she entered. Ava herself looked upbeat and chipper compared to their last two conversations. Short on sleep, perhaps, but positive. She stood up eagerly to shake Darcy's hand. You've been very patient, Darcy thanked her. The situation in Egypt really had taken much longer to clean up than most would have liked. Smuggling a wrecked UFO the size of a small house out of the country undetected had been a touch-and-go nightmare. No problem, Ava replied. It gave me a chance to, rebuild a burned bridge, actually. With Sergeant Aries, I assume, Darcy deduced. Yeah. Darcy sat down. Well, there's not much to this. I've already listened to the recording of your conversation with Six and read your own account, which was commendably thorough, by the way. Ava shrugged. I am a journalist, she pointed out. I think as your career progresses, you may find out that other journalists don't share your enthusiasm for conciseness, Darcy suggested. Ava laughed, but there was an edge to it. And here I was fantasizing you'd come here and offer me a job or something. Would you like one? Darcy asked. To her credit, despite the desperate and forced joke, Ava treated the question warily and with a level head. Is that an offer, or, hypothetical? Hypothetical, for now, Darcy said. Ava nodded. This felt good. I mean, I feel bad about Vinther and Pavlopoulos, but, being involved, making a difference. It's what I've been trying to do for a long time, and, She trailed off, then did a rather poor effort of rallying. Yeah. Darcy nodded. She'd expected this, and had spent a good long while thinking about how to phrase her answer. She led with the gentle answer. I'd be guilty of a terrible waste of potential if I turned you down outright, she said. Ava wasn't stupid. She saw the incoming however, and braced for it.
However, the fact is that hiring you this way would be deeply irregular even if there weren't concerns.
Ava settled back and listened. She must be disappointed, Darcy knew, but again, to her credit, there was no hint of bitterness involved. She just listened.
Now, stranger things have happened in the company's history, Darcy told her. But I think right now there's a too recent black mark on you. Your romantic indiscretion.
Ava's gaze dropped until she was looking right at her toes.
Right. I'm sorry. I really am. There are good reasons why an incident like that would count against you, Darcy explained. We can point to all kinds of scientific psychological studies proving that persons who break fidelity with their partners are more prone to risk-taking behavior and are therefore... It's not possible to entrust them with too much responsibility. You were only cleared for this because the stakes are so high, and I wanted to make it clear. You will be watched for the rest of your life for being involved in it.
Ava nodded. She didn't look up.
However,
Darcy launched into the good news.
Like I said, I see real potential in you. You have a sharp mind, a cool head, courage, spirit. I'm happy to endorse you. It won't count for much right now, but with time and effort... What kind of effort? Ava asked.
She looked up and met Darcy's eye.
What do I need to do?
Darcy frowned searchingly at her, trying to figure out the younger woman's motives, figuring out what she needed to say.
If you're after a quick fix,
she asked, and sensed the subtlest change in Ava's posture that she'd been on the money.
There isn't one. When it comes to reputation and trust, well, they can be lost in an instant and take years to recover, but they can be recovered.
Ava swallowed.
How? You're a talented photographer. You've demonstrated a good nose for a mystery, for putting things together. You're already standing on a solid foundation of journalism, and frankly, I think that bringing in people from that background might be in our best interest. It's always good to get different perspectives on things.
Ava found that amusing.
I think the reporter's ethos and the spy's ethos are at odds, she pointed out. Journalists are supposed to expose the truth. So are intelligence agencies. The only difference is who we expose the truth to, Darcy pointed out.
Ava didn't argue. Instead, she touched her thumb briefly and thoughtfully to her nose.
How does building a career in photojournalism help me prove myself? She asked. In a few ways. The first is time. You're now known to have a wealth of classified information in your head, and I'm not just talking about Deep Relic. The details of Operation Empty Bell, and some of the realities of the SOR. So long as you don't leak it...
Ava interrupted her.
I don't see how doing the smart thing and staying off death row proves I'm trustworthy, she objected.
Darcy laughed at that.
You would be surprised, she assured her. Just having a secret and holding it really does count over time. But more importantly...
She cleared her throat and considered her phrasing.
I don't want to say you stumbled into the Egypt situation. You didn't. You followed the hints and the leads and the evidence and knew what to look out for. And if you should stumble into any other situations where you think we might want to know, or where you think you may have found something we haven't, situations where you learn something that could save lives in the right hands?
Ava nodded.
Earn credit as kind of an informant, she mused. We're not omniscient, Darcy said, and if you're serious about wanting to erase that stain on your reputation and come work with us, there's your road. It won't be a short one or an easy one. But it's a goal, Ava nodded. Thank you. Really. Just knowing I've got something I can aim for and work towards helps. Thank you, Darcy replied. She stood up and shook Ava's hand. There's every possibility that this is the last time we ever meet, so, in case it is, best of luck. I have every confidence that you'll succeed, but a little luck can't hurt.
Ava smiled and nodded.
I hope it's not, she said, but good luck to you too.
Darcy handed her a set of printouts, plane tickets, and some cash in both euros and pounds.
This should get you home, she explained. Goodbye, Miss Rios. Goodbye.
Darcy let herself out. She turned to the NP as she did so. "The young lady is free to return home," she said. "Yes, ma'am." Darcy checked her organizer and allowed herself a small grimace. There was still far too many things to address before she could even close the book on Egypt. Not least was the worrying nature of a small object that had been found in Six's desk drawer. Date point: 10 years, 4 months, 1 week, 6 days AV. Allied Extrasolar Command, Scotch Creek, British Columbia, Canada, Earth. Owen Powell. General Tremblay was waiting at the bottom of the ramp as the SOR alighted and the C-17's crew set about unloading the pallets with their gear and suits for transport to the Cimbrian jump array. He shook hands with them all as they disembarked, offering congratulations and praise. "Excellent work all around," he said. "It's starting to look like Empty Bell may have just completely neutralized the hierarchy's presence on Earth. If it has, that's an even bigger victory than Capital Station." The lads nodded and grinned. "Sergeant Firth," the general continued, addressing Firth directly and in quieter tones, but nobody had trouble hearing. "I understand this would have been a disaster without your personal courage. Not a lot of guys get to claim to have personally saved the world, eh?"
"Careful, sir," Firth warned, clearly buoyed and embarrassed in equal measure by the praise. "I've got a big enough ego already."
Tremblay chuckled. "Still, thank you and well done. Now, don't let me keep you. Major Powell, a word, please?" Powell watched the lads follow their equipment across the concrete with a real sense of pride. The moment they were all out of earshot, he turned attentively to the general.
"Sir?"
"Mixed news regarding Operation Hollow Bird," Tremblay said, referring to the operation in the Perfection system that had taken the attention of Blazinski, Vandenberg, Akiyama, and Sykes. Powell's contented expression dropped immediately. "Your men are almost certainly fine," Tremblay assured him immediately. "But HMS Caledonia failed to make the rendezvous. Details are still sketchy, but from what I understand, there was a fire on board. A bad one."
"How bad?" Powell asked.
"Bad enough. Perfection's a long ways from here, though, and communications are limited. My understanding is that Commodore Carruthers and 6 of the V-class destroyers are on station helping her, but there's trouble with the locals."
"If the lads weren't caught up in it, they'll be flying the captured ship back to Cimbrian," Powell recalled.
"As far as we can tell, that's what they're doing," Tremblay said. "But at that distance, and at the estimated speed of the ship they've commandeered, their voyage time is about a week."
"In the suit? Oh," Powell grimaced. "Between that and recuperation after this mission, the SOR isn't going to be mission ready for at least a month."
"Admiral Knight suggests 2, Tremblay said. "Apparently, he's finally found an exo-atmospheric dropship that he thinks may suit your unit's needs, and you have men coming up the highway who'll need integrating."
"Yes, sir."
"Considering the success of this mission and the apparent solidity of our strategic footing, I don't think I'm too concerned, therefore," Tremblay said. "As for the Caledonia, well, by the time I have solid details, you'll probably have them too. We'll see how we go from there."
"Yes, sir."
Tremblay nodded. "Right. Last thing, apparently Major Jackson decided to use some of her precious leave time, and she's here with a personal gift for you, and I think," he raised a hand to shield his eyes from the sun as he peered towards the jump array building, "that your men already know what it is."
"A gift?"
Powell turned to try and get a look. He could just make out Riley in the distance, surrounded by operators. Whatever her gift was, the lads were clearly excited by it. "One I think you'll enjoy. Go on, Powell, enjoy yourself. Bye for now."
"Bye for now, sir."
Frowning to himself, Powell jogged across the concrete towards the knot of his men. As he came up behind them, a kind of high-pitched noise made itself known, one on the very upper limits of hearing with a particular cadence that he hadn't heard in a very long time.
"Is that a fucking—"
Burgess and Murray stood aside for him, and Jackson gave him a huge smile and a cheery wave. Sitting behind her on a leash and panting nervously was the largest dog Powell had ever seen. "Hey, Powell," she welcomed him.
"A dog?"
He stepped forward. The dog licked its jowls nervously and whined again, tail thumping anxiously on the concrete. "I think all these big, strong guys smell kind of scary," Riley suggested. "He's not like this with me."
"Where did you get him?"
Powell asked, taking a cautious half-step forward and going down on one knee.
Christ, you're a big fooker, aren't you?
This was an understatement. The dog was rather larger than Riley and almost as large as Powell himself. Guessing at the breed was almost impossible. He seemed to be a mutt, combining all the important features of a Mastiff, a Staffordshire Terrier, several breeds of big, scary dog, an Irish Wolfhound, a Great Dane, and an M1A2 Abrams. His paws were as big as saucepan lids, and he looked strong enough to pull a wagon. Picked him up at the no-kill shelter back home, Riley explained. Apparently, they rescued him from a gangbanger who wanted the biggest, scariest dog ever. Powell extended a hand for the dog to sniff. It did so, tail waving uncertainly.
That's right, mate. Friend, he said. No stupid fucking gangbangers here.
The dog licked his hand. Powell scratched his ears, and just like that, he'd made a friend for life. The dog didn't so much bark as produce a huge, booming woof. He played-bowed extravagantly and spun in a circle that nearly tied Riley up and knocked her down. Woofed again, and tried to coat Powell's face in an even layer of saliva.
All right, Christ, fucking,
Powell playfully wrestled the dog off him.
All right, you're big bozo, all right? Woof. What's his name? He asked.
I think you just named him, Riley grinned. Bozo fits him perfectly. Powell grinned at the dog, whose tail was threatening to become sprained from the force of all the wagging.
Yeah, is that you? Is your name Bozo, is it? Woof! Oh, who's a bozo? Who's a fucking
Powell was in the middle of enthusiastically massaging the newly christened Bozo's ears when he became aware of a wheezing noise behind him. Murray had doubled up from trying not to laugh. The rest of the lads hadn't even bothered trying. They were just standing there with enormous grins, watching their respected CO clown around with a dog. He cleared his throat, stood up, and tried to wrench some of its dignity back into place, well aware that he was just plugging a hole in the boat that would now never quite go away. Riley, for her part, managed to give him the best smug smirk he'd ever seen. I'm guessing you like him, she drawled. Powell cleared his throat again.
he
harumphed.
The regiment could do with a mascot, after all.
She handed him the leash. Bozo seemed quite content with the arrangement. All the paperwork and stuff is in here, she added, handing him a bag. He's vaccinated, clean, and has got a tracking implant, and I persuaded the base veterinarian to give him a front line, too. He should sail through Cimbrian customs, no problem. Powell nodded and handed the leash to Ares.
Hope I can trust you lads to train him right, he said. We'll arrange Schutzen on all the rest, sir,
Firth grinned. Bozo looked at his hand and relaxed as the four of them took turns scratching his scalp, clearly deciding that he was among friends.
All right, go on, prep him for jump. I'll be along in a few minutes.
The four of them swapped grins and jogged off with Bozo happily bounding along in tow.
All right, how did you know? He asked, turning to Riley.
You kidding? Like you would ever be a cat person, she replied.
Got me banged to rights there, Powell conceded. Still.
I saw him and thought of you, she chuckled. Take that however you want.
As a bloody compliment, which is how I reckon you meant it.
Yep.
So, what are you doing now?
Well, I've got 4 days leave left over, and Little Bird told me that you and the lads aren't going to be doing much for a little while. I was thinking I might take a few vacation days on Cimbrian. See Pinkwood in its natural habitat before it's extinct. Take in the nightlife. Have a spa day at Lake Scrapyard. You should join me. Work off some of that post-mission energy.
Me in a spa?
Oh, yeah. They've got this deep massage and sauna treatment they got from Germany. Apparently in the low gravity it feels divine.
Me in a spa, Powell repeated.
I got you a dog. The least you can do is put up with the hardship of a massage and hot baths. She rolled her eyes, then dropped her voice conspiratorially. In a private session, just you and me, and they don't let you wear clothes.
Actually, you know what? That does sound good.
Knew you'd see it my way, she beamed and sauntered off towards the array building. Powell followed, musing on success in the days to come. He'd earned some relaxation time, he decided. Date point: 10 years, 4 months, 1 week, 6 days AV. Cabal database relay 4772-61-76657-961-7264. 6. Hello, Ash. Or should I call you Ava? Alarm. Confusion. What? What's going on? What the fuck? Where am I? Ava Rios is safely at home on Earth, having survived a rather fierce battle that you won't remember. Denial. Horror. Hysteria. Wake up, Ava. Wake up. This is just a dream. It's just a bad dream. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. You are, well, a copy. A scan, to be precise, of every neuron in her head, every spark of electrical activity, every chemical and every ganglion converted into the same digital format as an Agraian. You may have noticed the scan as a mild headache. Fright. Disbelief. A copy? What do you want with me? Only to apologize. You are, after all, every bit as sapient as Ava herself is, every bit as sapient as I am. I just want you to know I'm sorry. Mounting fear, trepidation. What are you going to do? You kept secrets from me, Ava. You withheld information. Fortunately, that doesn't matter, because now that you and I are alone here, I can take everything I want. I'm afraid the process won't be pleasant, and, really, I am very sorry about this. You will not survive it. Panic, terror, pleading. No, please. I don't want to die. No, please. I'll tell you everything. Please don't kill me. No, no, no. Bleeding will not help you, Ava. You are the 20th copy I've dismantled thus far, and every time I do, I learn something new. God, no, please. I'm begging you, don't do this, please. Goodbye. No, please, God, help me. No, no, no. Interesting. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am the Casual Deathworlder, your host, and this has been The Deathworlders, Chapter 26, Part 3. If you enjoyed this content, please remember, the algorithm demands sacrifice. And while you're at it, please smash those like and subscribe buttons and consider dropping a comment down below for engagement purposes. As always, a huge shout out to my editor, Graygor. Thank you very much, buddy. I couldn't do this without you. Okay. While this is not a huge chapter, it is too large a chapter to do in one take. It's like 81 pages. As such, it'll be released on YouTube and Rumble in 3 parts. It'll be available as one piece on Patreon for my Tier 4 subscribers in the next couple of weeks. If you would like to listen to it all as a single unit, please consider subscribing there. And lastly, I invite you to join our community over on Discord. The invite link is in the channel description at the top of the page in YouTube and Rumble. Come join our community and join in the fun there. Until next time, be safe, be well. I love you all.
Wake up! No sleeping. We have work to do, Mr. Graygor.
Let us get going, shall we?
Where were we? Oh, yes.
Part 3.